All right, dear friends, with that, we got to get going over here. Last week, we completed the class with a cliffhanger. What's the cliffhanger? The cliffhanger is, we spoke about the big shift that Judaism teaches us to make from meaning to purpose. Which means, meaning is the small details that fill our lives with meaning. And that is, for the most part, a subjective experience. When we could reflect and say, that was very meaningful for me. Judaism says, okay, that's very, very nice. You could fill your life with meaningful stuff, meaningful activities, meaningful habits, and all that good stuff. Hello, Polina, can you close the door? You don't have to close it all the way, but at least just close it like... There you go. Yeah, just like that we don't disturb anybody out there. All right. We said like this. Purpose changes the conversation because purpose implies that there's a reason for creation. And we spoke about this in terms of a tool, right? You remember that tool from, right? Was it a cherry pitter? Mm-hmm. Remember that from last week, right? The cherry pitter? The tool wasn't made first and then somebody found a useful, meaningful way to use it. Rather, there's a purpose, there's an agenda here. And then the creation of this object, the creation of this phenomenon follows. And purpose changes everything. Judaism teaches the real shift that has to happen is, don't just look for meaning, but actually all the meaning we're trying to build, which is in the details, needs to be rooted in a deeper purpose. And the Kabbalah of Meaning is that we need to get into what is the ultimate purpose of everything. What is that ultimate purpose? So, dear friends, I want to answer this big existential question. What are we doing here? But maybe even more broadly, what is reality doing here? Which means like this. It could be there's no purpose. It could be there's no purpose. The Greek philosophers, here, come on in. We got a seat right here for you. And we got a book this time. I ordered a book right away to make sure you got it. All right, welcome. Good evening. The ancient Greek philosophers believed that the world didn't have a beginning and doesn't have an end time. It's an infinite loop. That was Greek philosophy. I didn't major in Greek philosophy, or maybe I slept through that class in yeshiva, but you know that's what they say. Greek, you know. So if the world always existed and is never going to end, then there's no real purpose to existence. It's just kind of like just this is the reality, just endless existence, but like no purpose, right? Judaism says no, there's a starting point. God decided. There was a point, there was no universe, nothing. No laws of nature, no humans, no parameters, no nothing. Just God. And God decides to create. How are we doing? Good evening. Hello, Lisa. You know, let's help out Lisa over here. Do we got Mark here?
Yes.
Okay. So either move down or move up. You want to move? We can either move all three of you down. All down. Okay.
Oh God, no. We'll just sit separate. We're fine.
Yeah, you sure? Okay.
Which way are we dancing?
I could offer marriage therapy as well if you would like. The Kabbalah of Marriage.
You just did.
Oh, that's it. Okay, we could.
There you go.
So Judaism says no. There's a starting point, which means God made a conscious decision. I want a world. Why would God want a world? Why would God want us? There was a point that we didn't exist, and all of a sudden God decided we're putting this person into the universe. So if you believe that all of us are a bunch of evolutionary mistakes, which means not a mistake, just kind of the what happens after billions of years of just stuff happening. Then there's me. Okay, then I have no purposeful existence. I can maybe back into meaning. So really, the question is, when I wake up in the morning, there are two questions I could ask. There's two attitudes. One attitude is, all right, here I am. I woke up. Why am I here? No clue. And actually, no reason. So then the question is, let me see how I can make today meaningful. But it doesn't have to be meaningful. The Jewish attitude is no. If the world is here, if you're here, that was a conscious decision by the creator of the universe. You're here for a purpose. So it's a very scary thought. So what's the purpose? So that's going to be the very first question. What is that purpose that we've been discussing the whole last week? What actually is it? Okay. That's question number one. Your assigned seat is right over here. How you doing, Mark? You want to take something to Nash on over there?
Maybe.
Go ahead. Thank you. Too healthy. All right. That's question number 1 for tonight. Question number 2 is going to be, let's move away from big existential questions. We're going to do a self-help question. All right? Shifting gears over here. What's going on over there? All right. Moses from Sinai. All right. Here's a a guy walks into the library, goes to the desk and says, where do you got your self-help section? So the lady says, if I told you, it would defeat the purpose. Okay, here's a self-help question. You got it. Okay. Very very basic point. And actually, let's do an exercise about it. Spend a minute. Which is, we all have big days, lots going on in our days. Let's do a daily meaning reflection. It's on page 67 in your books. And if you got a pen, take out your pen. If you don't have a pen, we could help you get a pen if you would like. Let's take 2 minutes over here. Go through this whole daily stuff that's going on over here. And put a number from 1 to 5. 1 means very little or no meaning. 5 means you find it deeply meaningful. Let's do a little... Got more to go. Lots of homework. How are we doing? Give it another minute over here? Let's give it another minute. All right. I'm not going to ask you to share your answer. It's not the point. There's no right or wrong answer. But what would you say? Would you say that, first of all, is it an even leaning, or is it all over the place a little bit? What would you say? Even. Even low meaning or high meaning?
Right.
Or sort of getting right in the middle. Nothing too meaningful, nothing too much, nothing too little.
Oh, there's some very.
It's all over the place.
There's some very meaningful things.
There's some very meaningful
Well,
things.
then you speak up.
I just did.
There you go. So you're saying some very meaningful. Are there also some non-meaningful stuff?
Not as.
I like that. Not as meaningful. So, for example, doing laundry. Some people, it's very therapeutic. For them, it's very, very enjoyable. And they feel taking care of their families. Some people, they hate doing it, but you just got to do it. So you got to do it. That's what I was like when I was in yeshiva. Laundry happened only post-deadline. No clothes. Oh, then I got to do it. I got to do it. And I enjoy doing it. But when you got to do it, you got to do it. Some people, it's very meaningful. There's also like over here, what was over here? They had like attending an event, attending a cause or an event. Some people love it. You go out, you socialize, wonderful. Some people get real social anxiety. I hate going out to events. I'm not saying me. I'm not going to tell you what. For me, it depends on the event. Some events I like. Some events are very hard for people. What do you mean? 6:30 p.m. I got to go out and get all dressed up and smile to everybody and make chit chat, small talk. I don't like doing that. A lot of people don't do that. A rabbi actually once told me that he joined a special workshop that was led by a rabbi who it said being a rabbi for introverts. You're a rabbi, you're supposed to work the crowd, make connections, hang out with people. So what if your personality is just, you don't like doing that? You like staying at home, you like doing your own thing. It's a challenge. So everybody could find different things meaningful, high meaning, low meaning. There's definitely going to be stuff that, as a human being, we all suffer from sometimes just being a little bit all over the place, being fragmented, being frazzled, feeling you don't have a lid on your life and just things are pulling you a little bit too much in different directions. There's been some studies on this, that one of the causes for people feeling mentally stressed, the mental health challenges, come from a lack of cohesion in life, lack of cohesiveness. When you feel that your life is just pulling you in all directions and you can't keep up with it, and you just don't feel that you have a good control over your life and over your schedule and over your priorities and over what you want to do, that starts hurting you. That I don't feel I'm in control of life, and life gets very, very overwhelming then, and that could be a very, very big challenge. So when there's cohesiveness, that's when a lot of people could feel calmed and relaxed and an inner serenity and mentally I'm in a good space. When things are all over the place, that's when we start snapping. It starts triggering us, and we can't do it anymore. So this is already a self-help thing. What's the meaning in a life that could be fragmented, and is there any way could Jewish spirituality help us? On the one end, with the big existential questions, and on the other hand, with the very personal journey of us trying to have a more balanced and wholesome and peaceful life. So, dear friends, that's what we're going to be doing today in lesson number 3, meaning in the mundane. And this is what we got over here. Some things in life are more meaningful than others. So, like relationships, studying is maybe high up there. Certain things are low on the meaning chart. That's what we're here to talk about. With those two questions, we're going to jump in. You guys are ready? Okay, now, I want to share with you a little story. So in the Chabad Hasidic tradition, there's a very big emphasis on studying deep Jewish spirituality, studying ideas from Kabbalah, what's called the innermost layer of the Torah. In our generation, he just passed away a few years ago, one of the greatest, call him a philosopher, but one of the greatest scholars of Jewish Hasidic thought. His name was Rabbi Yoel Kahn. Rabbi Yoel Kahn. He wasn't a big hotshot, but he was absolutely brilliant. He had an unbelievable depth of mind and just a grasp on a lot of material, and he had an unbelievable way of getting down to the core of things and knowing how to teach it. He only taught in Hebrew and in Yiddish. He didn't even speak English his whole life, even though he lived here in America. He was absent-minded. But he was unbelievable. Till today, his classes and his lectures, there's an app specially made with all of his classes and lectures. I listen to it in the car. Just unbelievable. If you want to really study the depths of Hasidism. Anyways, he used to give every single day in Brooklyn a class for yeshiva boys, for the Chabad yeshiva boys, on the book of Tanya. Some of you, Tanya. Some are familiar. Some of you are familiar with the Tanya, but the Tanya is a book written by the founder of the Chabad movement a little bit over 200 years ago. And it's an unbelievably deep book of Jewish spirituality as well as psychology. But it's very personal. It's not just a book of ideas, but it's a very personal book. Unbelievably deep, but very, very special. And it was a bestseller then, even when it was just published. Until today, it's an unbelievably unique and renowned book. He gave a daily class in the Tanya. One day, a Jew who hears about this class and was interested in learning about Jewish spirituality, he hears, this great scholar, Rabbi Kahn, gives a class every single day. He says, I'm going to go try out the class. He was a religious Jew, not Chabad, Orthodox. He sits in on the class. Halfway through the class, he gets out of his seat, and he's all worked up, and he says, you're ruining my life. I'm out of here. And Rabbi Kahn says, finally, somebody understands what I'm saying here. Come back. All of you guys sitting here, you're nodding your head. Yeah, sure, says this, says that. No, you guys aren't realizing what I'm doing. I'm ruining lives here. It's very deep. If you study something and your life wasn't ruined, it's a big question if you really studied it. Which means, right, things have to change if it's real wisdom. And if you really got a new insight into wisdom, that means you shouldn't be able to look at the world ever, again the same. It should ruin. Jewish spirituality is very scary. Why? Because when you get down to the core of it, it ruins lives. Which means if you really listen to what we're saying, this is life-ruining stuff. So, I want to warn all of you now that what I'm about to teach you tonight has the potential to sound a little crazy. So either, what does they say? Any objections now or forever hold your peace. No. Meaning it's okay. It's a very, meaning the beauty of the story is that the teacher, instead of being all offended that a guy didn't like what he was saying, he appreciated the beauty of somebody feeling that there's too much, the resistance over here. And in a certain way, that's actually, it shows it's a very deep person. You understand when you learn something, it means something, Which means when a kid for the first time learns math, 1 + 1 = 2, essentially they can never look at life the same. There's a certain reality that they all of a sudden got in touch with that will forever change the way they look at things. That's really the way real wisdom is supposed to work. You see something, you really understand something, and you connect with it with your mind, life can't be the same. Okay. So I want to share with you what Judaism teaches about the purpose of the universe and the purpose of our lives, but this is life-ruining stuff. And with all that, I just said that because my lawyer told me I have to say that, just in case anybody sues me. I warned all of you. Okay. Let me ask you something. What came first? It sounds like a silly question, but it's a very, very important question. What came first? The hospital building or the concept of a hospital? Which means, just please have patience. Just walk through with me with the hypothetical. Early civilization decided to build a city, came upon a massive building. They inspect the building, and they see hallways and rooms and spaces and machines and furniture. And all of a sudden, they're like, hey, what can we do with this wonderful building we bumped into? Maybe this could be a place that, if people get sick, we could put them in over here. Oh, and this third floor is perfect for the maternity ward. Look at this. Has all these. Is that what happened? Or did the concept of the hospital come first? Now, of course, we all know the answer, right? A school building. What comes first? The building? And then somebody moved in and like, hey, we have rooms here, so let's split kids up by grades. And the rooms have chairs and tables, so let's sit kids around tables and chairs. And it happens to be a whiteboard, so let's use whiteboards for teaching. But just because it's here anyways. Of course not what happened, right? First you have the concept. Humanity realizes we should have a place that when people get sick, we could heal them. And then you build a concept of what needs to be there in the hospital. What do you want in a classroom? What age is this? You build up a concept, a theory, a purpose, and then you build a building surrounding your needs. So first you have the concept, and then you build around there. Right? That's not such an earth-shattering concept, right? But let's apply it to ourselves. You could either say that there is a universe. That's fact. We walk into a universe. Now, what could we possibly do with this universe? I don't know. Let's make money. Why not? I don't know. Let's live life. I don't know. Let's build a family here. Just like, why not? I don't know. The world maybe supports that. Let's just do it. But we know that's not how anything works. Nothing is made that way. So the basic concept that the Torah tells us, that the opening verse of the Torah, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. That itself has a massive bombshell tucked right into that verse, which is the world is not just a random space that, figure out what to do with it. It's a deeply purposeful creation, and it comes with a real purpose. Okay. Now, the life-ruining moment for that is, here's the life-ruining moment. You ready? That means that the world's purpose is not me. Which means every single one of us have to say, the world is not here for me. Now, that does not work well with the way organisms work in this universe. At the very, very basis, at the very essential core of every single living and breathing object, right? Any organism on this earth has one basic drive, even if it doesn't have a brain, which is survive, survive, survive. And survive over everybody else's survival. And if there's a resource that's good for your survival, it's for you. That's what our egos say. That's the basic consciousness of all that exists. Every single tree has one agenda and one agenda only. I need to exist. If I need oxygen or if I need sunlight, I'm going to race to the top. And if there's another tree that's threatening me, I'm going to try to use some mechanism to somehow get rid of that tree. Every single animal, every single plant has mechanisms that I should survive over anything else. And if there's a resource, it's for me. So the nature of the ego, not just the human ego, but any ego, or any existence, is I'm here, and there's an automatic assumption that I'm the center of the universe. Now, that's automatic. Every single baby, as beautiful as babies are when they're born, every single baby being an object of our universe has the consciousness of the world revolves around me, which is why a baby has no problem waking up at 3 a.m., crying their heads off, waking up the whole house, because I'm hungry. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, people are trying to sleep, mom and dad are working really, really hard for you already, cut them some slack, No, I'm hungry, world's here for me. Now, the real truth is, even when we're adults, we still have that. Someone told this to me, and it's a scary thought when you think about it. Whenever you look at a picture, and you're in the picture, and you get to see the picture, what's the very first place where your eyes go when you're looking at the picture? Yourself. Isn't that sad? Like, we can't look at a picture and appreciate the picture, the other people there. No, I'm looking right at myself. It's all that matters. It's an amazing thing. It's so deeply built into our consciousness that it's all about me. Everything's about me. Me, 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 me. Now, the only difference is that when we're children, we're not embarrassed to say it. When we're adults, we make it sound a little bit more sophisticated. So this is a very, very life-scary thing to go with over here. But we have to realize this fact. The purpose predates the system. There is a purpose for the world that existed before the world was created. And there's a purpose for me that exists before I was created. Which basically tells me that if I want to be real and honest with myself, the world does not exist for us. It doesn't exist for me. The world's not here in my agenda. So, living a purposeful life, and the Kabbalah of purpose, and the reason why Kabbalah of purpose ruins our lives over here, is because it tells you that if you're living a day, and your day is all about, what do I want, what am I in the mood of, how do I have a life of meaning? You want meaning. You're not living life purposefully. That's not the purpose. The purpose is not you. So if your purpose is you, it's not the purpose. Now, you could be having a wonderful, meaningful life, or not, I don't know. But I warned you, it's life ruining. So what is the purpose? Or then, for whom is the purpose? And Judaism is going to tell us that the real purpose of creation, the real purpose of our lives, is for God's purpose. So God has a purpose. God had some idea. We don't yet know what it is. Don't worry, I'll tell you tonight. I'll finally do the big reveal tonight. God has a purpose. God created the universe for that purpose. Every single tree was created for that purpose. We were created for that purpose. And life is about that purpose. Not for my purpose, for God's purpose. You guys ever heard of the Ethics of Our Fathers? Right, classical Jewish book. There's a life-ruining little quote in the Ethics of Our Fathers. In the last chapter, chapter 6. Here's a life-ruining quote. Text 1a on page 71. Let's begin doing some reading. Mark, want to give us a reading over here?
Sure.
Let's start doing some readings. Text 1a, page 71. You could do that also. We'll do the English.
Everything that God created in his world, he created only for his glory, as it is stated. All that is attributed to my name, for my glory I created it, formed it, and made it.
Everything here is for his glory. Now, what does that even mean, his glory? Like, usually that means like a little bit like, everything's for my glory. So it doesn't mean like in a, it means more for like a glorious idea. God has a glorious concept. So what's glorious for me? Glorious for me is I get a good dish of sushi, and it's good, that's glorious. A nice new car, oh, this is glorious. All right, that's glamorous. That's what I find beautiful. That's what gives me a good high. Okay, that's my glorious. What does God find glorious? What's God after? What's he looking for? Judaism teaches that if you want to be positioned, that I'm in sync, I'm living life with purpose, there needs to be a very, very important shift. That you have this certain mental awareness, which is a very difficult thing to adopt because it goes against our egos. That I'm not living for me, I'm not living for myself, I'm not living for my agenda, I'm living for God's agenda. Now, dear friends, no one said this is easy. And no one said that anybody mastered it. And even though I'm preaching it from the pulpit, I'm not saying this is why Judaism teaches it takes work. It takes work to lift ourselves up to be spiritual people. It takes work to be the people that God wants us to be. It takes a lot of hard work to lift ourselves a little bit out of our ego. And we should be people who serve a higher purpose, live a higher life. But this is really what it's all about. The Kabbalah of purpose is that we have to understand the purpose. We have to get ourselves at least we have a mental recognition, a mental awareness that life is a little bit more than myself, and maybe even a lot more than myself. Let's read the next text, text 1b, from the great sage who lived about 500 years ago, called the Maharal of Prague. You've ever been in Prague?
Yeah.
So the Maharal of Prague, you ever heard of the legend of the Golem?
Yes.
The Golem of Prague. So the Maharal of Prague, Rabbi Yehuda Lowy, or the proper pronunciation is Rabbi Yehuda Levoy, legend has it that he created the Golem of Prague, and I'm actually his great-great-grandchild. Honor, so we're going to read a little text here from Isaiah. You ready? All right. Some more life-ruining moments over here.
All right.
Text 1b, page 72.
The sole purpose. God is the purpose of all people and all things, for everything was created to serve his glory. Thus God is the sole purpose, and there is no purpose but for him. King Solomon of blessed memory similarly concluded his work. The end of the matter, after everything has been heard, is to revere God and observe his commandments, for this is the entire human. This means that the entire universe was created only for this purpose. The universe was created for humans, and humans were created to revere God and observe his commandments. Considering that this is the sole purpose of all humans and the entire universe, it is fitting that we each make this our sole purpose.
Takes work, and takes also choice. God doesn't force us into this. It's a choice of us. We all have free choice to choose to acknowledge that this could be what my life could be about. Now, that could be a scary thought. I want to talk about this. Some people could read this. Oh, the world's not for me. I'm just here to do God's bidding. All right. So life is oppressive, and that sucks all the joy out of life because I'm not here for myself. I'm just here to do what, yeah, no problem. Do this, do that. Or we could realize that there's something very powerful and dignifying about that. Something very beautiful about that. On the one hand, we're saying life is not about you, about your egos, about your pleasures, about what you could do today, about you feeling fulfilled and accomplished. It's not about that. But on the other hand, what does it feel like to wake up in the morning? One option is to question your existence. Do I matter? I don't know. If I accomplish something today, maybe I matter. If from a year from now I'm more world famous, maybe I matter. If I can invent a new invention, like a new iPad, maybe I matter. But if in 5 years from now I see I'm not doing anything, okay, I just don't matter. I matter to nobody. I matter to nothing. If I disappeared off the face of the planet tomorrow, nobody would know. That's actually very oppressive. Can you imagine you wake up in the morning and you say, I'm here. I absolutely matter. I'm a critical part of the machine of God's plan. What? I don't know yet what. But I didn't do anything. I deeply matter to this universe. So it's the irony. By thinking less about yourself, you actually come out with what? With a greater purpose, a greater identity. Life is not just about me. I'm part of something greater, part of something larger. I'm part of this cosmic plan. I'm part of a story that began at the very beginning of time, and I'm a chapter of that story. God needs me for a critical part of that. One critical part missing, the whole thing could go bad. Like my mechanic reminds me every single time I bring my car in to the mechanic. I just recently got the engine light. So, as usual, when the light goes on, what do you first do? Give it a little bit of time.
Time to go off.
Maybe, just maybe, the problem will go away by itself, right? Never works. All right, a month later, the light's still on. All right, we'll bring it to the mechanic. So I'm like, all right, just take a look at it. He calls me up 2 hours later. He says, okay, listen, the problem that caused the light to go on, that's a very easy thing, quick fix. But you've got a bunch of other problems with your car. Gives me a $1,000 bill. I'm like, listen, I trust you. I don't know anything about cars. If you tell me it's important, it's important. All right, $1,000 later, here we are. Okay, one little part, it could ruin the whole car. So, is my little part that little? In a perfect system, is any one little part that little? So this is the question. We have two options. Either we could be working with our default operating system, default settings, right out of the box. And the default human setting is, life is all about me, and that's it. I'm chasing whatever I want. Survival, pleasure, and all that good stuff. Or we could uplift ourselves, say, no, life is not about that. I'm actually here on a mission. I'm here on service. There's something greater going on over here. Marshall, come on in. Grab a chair. Look at this over here. How you doing, Marshall? Chair right back over there. I don't think we got any more space over here. There you go. So here's the go. There's two options. There we go. What is the purpose of creation? God has a glorious purpose. So there's two options. One option is, what can God do for me? Which is the idea. Okay, I exist. I have my life, I have my agenda. And then all of a sudden, you find out in Hebrew school there's something called God. All right, God, make an appointment. I don't know if we have time for you. We'll see if we have time, if we have space, if we have resources. Maybe we'll make some time for you. All right, it's a possibility. Which means I'm here. Oh, you want to enter my life? What do you got for me? That's one attitude to look at our place in life. What's our relationship with God? Our relationship with the Torah? Okay, that's interesting. If you could convince me that the Torah has something good to sell me, I'll consider that. Maybe we'll squeeze that into the schedule a little bit. The other attitude is, no, what can I do for God? God has a world, and He's hired me to be a member of His team. Show up for work. God, what's on today's agenda? It's a different mindset, a whole different mindset. Now, I know this really does not work well with Western culture thinking. Right? What's life about? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is indeed the role of good government, right? Hands off from, right? Let us do our thing. But as a Jew, what's our identity? Not just to live our own life and our own liberties and our own pursuit of happiness as ever we see fit that day, but it's to realize that we are people, men and women and children on a mission, dispatched for a very specific goal. And healthy Jewish living, and the Kabbalah of meaning, and the Kabbalah of purpose, is that we should at least be aware of this and try to adapt this. That our existence is part of a grand cosmic story. How does that sound? How are we doing? Big idea? That's a big idea. Should we stop the class? Or keep on going? What was that? It's a very deep idea. Yeah.
It's difficult to accept.
It's difficult to accept. Yeah, for sure. These are the types of things we have to learn about and think about and remind ourselves about. Yeah. Real deep ideas of Jewish spirituality are not things that work in your comfort zone. It's lifting us up. And, being uplifted sometimes means that we're being pushed outside of our horizons. Yes?
The previous concept you mentioned about what God can do for you and God, former President Kennedy said the same thing about the country. Don't ask what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your
Right.
country.
But here's my question. What right does my country have to impose upon me? That I need to be asking, what can I do for my country? I mean, it's a very noble thing, but over here it's going much, much deeper. My country didn't create for me my purpose. My country didn't give birth to me. So okay, it's a nice thing that as a good citizen that's loyal to its nation, that we should ask, what could I do for my civilization? Judaism coming and saying, no. It's not just be nice, be noble, and make time for God, or prioritize God. This is the singular purpose. God created you for a purpose. Now you could choose to ignore that. God made us with free choice. But it's not an arbitrary choice that, I'll be nice and I'll make time for God. Or I'll be, I'll do God's work as because I'm a nice guy. No. It's not about being nice over here. It's about, are we willing to say that there's a purpose larger than us? And that if so, let me think about that. Let me try to put myself in that position to live life with that purpose, which is absolutely a scary thought. Life-changing, life-ruining. Somebody else had their hand up. Yes?
I'm not sure how to articulate it, because I don't know if it circles back to it circles back to, if it's not about me, yet we're taught that we're created in the image of God. So like to treat ourselves, to be good and treat ourselves well because we were privileged to be.
So here's the thing.
How does that align?
100%. So does this concept mean that I am, to use the Yiddish word, a shmata? That means a rag. So am I a rag, and am I a nothing, and I'm a nobody, and everybody should just walk over me? Stop taking showers because it's not about me. Right? Is that what we're saying? We're saying no. My dignity is not because I want to be respected. It's actually inherent dignity. I work for God. I dress differently. Right? First day on the job, today I put on a suit. First day at the job in the office, big deal over here. I now represent this, right? An ambassador of a country. You go to another country, you're an ambassador. You understand that you are not just representing yourself, but I'm representing this nation over here. I dress the part. I have a certain self-image I even walk around with. I walk differently. Just why? Because it's not about me. It's not that I have a big ego, so I think I deserve more respect. I'm representing something major over here. So it's even more dignity. It's more sense of self-worth. It's more sense of even self-respect. I work for God. I'm dispatched from God over here. This is for example, it's like some people, I'm in a bad mood. I'm just going to kill time today. Or there's the self-respect. 1 second. I'm on call for God today. I don't do that. I don't kill time. Right? I have too much dignity for that. I'm special. So it all ties in. Okay. Yes.
So, in a way, then the example that you gave about serving your country, it actually is the opposite, right? In a way, what you're saying is that this concept that we're part of a grand cosmic story, we have our mission, has to break all cultural affiliations, all political affiliations, because we're not here to serve a political party or to serve a particular country or to follow any kind of cultural norms or guidelines that humans created to divide themselves, because we are all here for the same purpose, hopefully.
1,000%.
Right? So we need somehow to break away. I don't remember the name of the woman, a Theosophian who talked about the ring pass not. Helena Blavatsky, right? So she talked about ring pass not concept, where you get crowded by rings that bound you and create boundaries around you that are created by cultural norms, by expectations, by things that are imposed on you, and you kind of forget your purpose. So in order to break out, you have to pass those rings. So the ring pass not is a self-imposed, culturally imposed, country-imposed boundaries.
100%, which means there's no problem, and there is something even, there's a certain value I could even see, that if you live in a country, our sages tell us you should pray for the peace of your country, which means there is an idea, I'm loyal to my country, 1,000%, but it should never become your inherent identity, especially for a Jew. Why is that? Because there's a difference between my core identity and then assumed roles that I play in life. So if I decide I'm going to become a doctor and I go and study to become a doctor, so there's me, and then this is my profession. This is what I practice. There's me, okay, I happen to live in America, and I'm loyal to America, no problem. But this is never replace these roles, these labels as your core identity. My core identity is something which precedes that. It was something which I was born with. So what was I born with? What's that purpose I was born with? I'll tell you something very, very interesting. A little story. In 1927, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe was arrested by the Soviet communist government in Russia, they wanted to, root out all religion because they saw religion as a direct conflict with the values of communism and equality. They wanted to get rid of it. The Rebbe was a very, very high-profile guy, so they really pushed out their patience with him. But in the spring of 1927, they're like, all right, we're done with this. We're going to arrest him, and the plan was to assassinate him very, very quickly. Now, an unbelievable thing, there's a whole story about it, which we're not going to get into, that somehow word got to the State Department in America that they arrested this great rabbi, the previous Lubavitch Rebbe, and the State Department put tremendous pressure on the Soviet government that you cannot kill this man. And if you don't like him, you could kick him out of the country. And that's what they did. 10 days later, they released him from jail. And it was a real miracle because today we have all the records of the KGB archives. We know that was their plan. They knew they would be getting pressure if they arrest him, so they wanted that night they'll just shoot him and call it a day. So, in any case, the previous Lubavitch Rebbe, he kept a diary of this whole episode of his life, his arrest, his imprisonment. And he says that there was a midnight raid. That's how the KGB would always do it. Back then it was called the NKVD, right? Before KGB. NKVD. They come in midnight and they do their raid. And so the previous Lubavitch Rebbe writes is that they came into the room where his teenage daughters, were there in their bedroom. And they right away storm their room and they confront them and say, which party do you belong to? Which in Russia was all about parties. Which party affiliation do you have? And they said, we only belong to the party of God, the King of Kings, blessed be He. There's the ultimate party, the party that existed before any parties existed. That's our loyalty. We're not loyal to the right, to the left, to this political party. Okay. Anyways, we got to get the show on the road over here, else we'll be here for a long time. What is that purpose? What's God's purpose? Okay, now here's a big idea from Kabbalah. I want to spend a few minutes talking about it, but at the same time, I don't want to get too stuck on it. So, if it feels like a big idea, and if it feels a little bit elusive for you, that's okay. It's meant to be. Big ideas are meant to be things that are not bite-sized, but take a lot of time to work through. You ready for the big idea? Okay. So let's get a little bit theological for a second. God doesn't have the weaknesses and the limitations and the biases and the egos that a human being has. God is infinite, all-knowing, all-powerful, beyond everything. So for us, our egos are an important thing. And we like when we get offended if somebody doesn't give us attention, or we enjoy when people do give us attention, which stokes our egos, right? Does God have that? No, can't be, right? It's beyond that weakness of needing things. So when we say God's glory, right? God created everything for His glory. Doesn't mean that God has like the human weakness and He needs people to give Him attention, or else He is in a bad mood. No. Could God have any needs? We have needs. And you go eat. I'm hungry. If I don't eat, what's going to happen to me? I'm not going to be good. Right? Step number one when I don't eat is I'm in a bad mood. Then it only goes downhill from there. So does God have needs that He needs met? No, can't be. If you're infinite, you can't have any needs. Could God even have any wants, which means He's lacking something? Also not. So we have to kind of zoom out and really think deeply about this whole concept that God has a certain purpose. That there's something very, very mysterious about the whole concept, that God could even want something that He kind of speak doesn't have. And because of that, the first thing that Kabbalah teaches us is that the purpose of the creation that God revealed to us in the Torah is a purpose that defies logic. It defies a very logical need. Okay, here's this, and there's me, and I need this, and I'll explain to you why I need this, and here, okay, this is going to fulfill my need. It doesn't work like that. But there is some mysterious desire that God has, and that is what set in motion everything, and that is the key to unlocking the meaning and purpose behind everything. You ready? Here's the big reveal. Mysterious, cryptic text from our sages in the Midrash. Up to you, Daniel, right? Text 3, page 76.
God's desire.
Yeah, there you go.
When God created the world, he desired to have a dwelling place in the lower realms, just as he has in the upper realms.
Let's spend a minute to process that. What's being said over here? God desired to have a dwelling place in the lower realms, just as he has in the upper realms. What does that mean?
He's all
Man
around.
of all people.
Say that again?
He's all around.
He's all around, but he wants something. He wants a home here, a dwelling place.
He's a man for all people.
Meaning what?
I don't know.
So what does God want? So what exactly is this? What does God have in the upper worlds, in the upper realms, and he doesn't have in the lower realms?
Existence.
The light form.
So here it is. You ready? Let me ask you a little question over here. Is God present in our world?
Through us.
What was that?
Through us.
Through us? Is God present, I don't know, in the atoms that make up this little lecture?
God is everywhere.
God is everywhere.
God is everywhere.
God is everywhere.
Yes.
God is everywhere. Judaism says God is everywhere. If he's everywhere, why don't I see him?
He's concealed.
So the way we live in our universe, let me first put it like this. Judaism teaches, Kabbalah teaches, really the premise of Kabbalah is that there's different dimensions and layers to reality. We are the denizens, we are the occupiers or the natural inhabitants of the lowest plane of reality, physical universe. Here's planet Earth, physical universe. All material physical universe is considered the lowest plane of creation, of reality, and that's where we are. There's also higher worlds. Now, worlds doesn't mean planets. We're not talking about other galaxies. We're talking about totally beyond physical existence. There's spiritual worlds. The world of angels, the world of souls, where we came from, where we'll go back to. Beyond. And there's a lot of worlds. Even an infinite amount of worlds. Dimensions. Generally, Kabbalah splits them into 4 different general categories. 4 worlds. 4 general, which, if you came to us 2 years ago, the world of Kabbalah, we gave a grand tour of the 4 worlds. Okay, but that's not for today. Here's the big thing. In our world, God is here just as God is everywhere within existence. When God created a world, he didn't make it outside of himself because there is no outside of God. If there would be an outside of God, God wouldn't be infinite. So, God is everywhere. God's the energy of everything. This cup is in existence because it's divine energy that's powering it, bringing it into existence. But in our universe, God pulled off the absolute and maximum camouflage. That in our universe, you could look around, you could observe the universe, you could work in a lab and break things down to its molecules, but you will not discover God. As the saying goes, you can't discover, or there's another term, you can't discover God in a lab. You can't study God in a lab. That's the proof. The scientists say maybe one day we'll be able to study God in a lab. And Judaism says no. Judaism says that in our world, the way God created this world is 100% camouflage. When he's there and 100% eclipsed. Hidden, obscured. Now, what that does is it allows something else to emerge. When you live in a reality where you could sense God, like the world of the angels, they sense God. When you sense God, and because God is a true absolute existence, the true force of reality, that reality of God that you could be in tune with is totally overwhelming. It overwhelms your senses. And it highly minimizes the opportunity for you to have a really good, well-formed ego. A sense of existence, a sense of somethingness, a sense of being self-absorbed, which we all humans naturally are. I'm not saying that in a narcissistic way, just in a natural way. We're all just naturally tuned into our own egos, our own existences. God wanted to create a plane of reality, which, spoiler alert, is our reality, where he is so undetectable. And there's no sense within our world that there is a creator, that everything that exists feels, I'm here just because. I'm here. Why are you here? No reason. I'm here. Who made you? No one made me. I'm just here. What are you here for? What am I here for? I'm just here. I'm here for myself. That's what the 100% obscurity of God has caused. That our egos now are 100% healthy egos. And that's the human condition, and that's the condition of all of reality. Deep stuff over here, no? So, at the very top of existence, God did this in a slow process. At the very first level of world creating, you have very overpowering presence of God, very, very little space for the ego. And slowly but surely, God creates more layers and more layers, where God starts pulling himself back more and more and more and more and more. And as God pulls himself away more and more and more and more, egos, disconnection from God, all these other agendas could start slowly appearing more and more and more, until we get to our universe where, from our perspective, there's zero God, 100% us. Which creates a very unique environment. God created an environment where he's there, but from the perspective of that environment, there is no God. Now, it's funny for a rabbi to be coming and saying there's no God in this universe, but I'm saying it more from our perspective. The way the world appears to us is that God is not an axiom of our universe. You walk outside and it's raining, it's raining. You don't have to go and read a book to convince you that maybe it's raining outside. I was trying once to teach my kids about oxygen. What's oxygen? So I said, take a deep breath and then shut your mouth. So what's there in your things? So what's taking up all that space inside of your mouth? Oh, there's something. Okay, you can't see it, but there's some. Everything you could test in a lab. So everything else is an axiom. It's the truth of our universe. You walk outside, it's cold outside. It's cold. That's a fact. You can't walk outside and feel God. It just doesn't work with your five senses. That's the truth. God created our universe by design to be 100% godless. In other words, God is not imposing himself upon our consciousness. If you're an angel, you don't have an option. Do you believe in God? It's like saying, do you believe in coldness? What do I believe? It's not a matter of belief, right? It's there. Do you believe in gravity? What do you want me to believe in, right? Oh, but God, all of a sudden, that's an abstraction. I don't know, maybe we could talk about it, we could philosophize about it. Yeah, maybe there's a God. I could believe in God. I'm not sure if I believe in God. You don't believe in God, right? It becomes removed. God did not impose his presence upon us. That's first of all what allows us to have free choice. If we would even get even 1% of awareness of the truth of God, it would be impossible to not have God as the truth of your universe. Impossible. We would be plugged into the godly purpose, godly presence. It's just impossible not. God gave us a lot of space. 100% independence. 100% existence. Why did God do that? Comes our sages and tell us he did that like that. He could have a dwelling place in this lowest realm. There should be a space where God is not there. And again, he is there. But no one knows he's there. On the world's terms, he's not there. And that the world itself on its own terms invites God in. And the purpose is that there should be this space where there's no God, and God is invited in, and that this world could be a godly space. Going from zero God to 100% God. That is the goal. What's the end goal? What does it look like? That's what we call, in Judaism, the Messianic era, when Mashiach comes, the times of the Messiah. What does that mean? Right? Other religions stole the concept from us, but it's a Jewish belief. What's a Jewish belief? That the world does have an end game. There's a purpose we are working towards. Every single phase of history is part of that story. I am part of that story. And we're working towards what? Reintroducing God, inviting God in to this world. How do we do that? We'll get to that soon. But this is the purpose. Yes?
So God showed his back, not his face, to Moshe. Do we think that God will reveal his presence to the Messiah, Mashiach?
What exactly it's going to look, I don't know. What does it even mean that God's showing his back? Even that, I don't know what that means.
Well, it was more of a direct command.
Right, indirect, direct. It will probably be more than that. It's going to be the absolute revelation. That's the idea. That we should be able to live in a world, which means you can't imagine that. In the same world, we still have our jobs, we still live in our homes, we still have our families, you still got to fill up your car with gas. But it's a different world, it's a godly world. And the consciousness of everything in this world changes because God is a reality. So our egos will definitely change. Our sense of existence, our sense of separation from everybody else is going to change. It's a very mysterious and radical thought to think about. Right? There's going to be a time when it's going to be the same world, but now there's a new sense. I wake up in the morning, I feel God's presence. It's the greatest fact of our reality. It's a very scary thought. It's very I don't know if it's scary, but there's a lot to think about there. This is the goal. Now let's read what I just told you inside the text. This is from the book of Tanya, which I told you before. That's the book from the story. The guy that said you're ruining my life. Text number 4, page 77. Cheryl, right? Yes. Let's give this a good read. This is a deep text. There's a lot going on over here. So, this is a text from Kabbalah.
Purpose on the lowest level. This is the idea behind the chain-like progression of the spiritual worlds. How they descend step by step through many layers that act like coverings, hiding the light and life force that come from God. Eventually, this process leads to the creation of our physical, material world. This world is the lowest of all. It hides God's presence more than any other. It's a world of deep and layered darkness filled with kalipa,
Yep.
spiritual coverings, and sitra achara, forces that oppose holiness, which can even deny God altogether, saying things like, it's just me, nothing else matters. This descent wasn't for the sake of the higher worlds. For them, each step down is a loss of closeness to God. The real purpose was this lowest world. This is what God wanted, that he would take pleasure when the sitra achara is overcome and darkness is turned into light, and that his infinite light should shine precisely here in the very place where he seems most hidden.
You can spend a lifetime working through this big idea. This is big, big stuff. This is what God wants. There you go. Oh, no, we got a whole fancy animation over here. God desires a home in a place where he is hidden, and we must choose to build that home for him, to bring God in over here. So how do we bring God in here? What's the game plan? So we're members of this universe, which is, right, disconnected, at least consciously, from God. But we also have a divine soul. We all have a divine spark inside of us, which makes us a little bit of like a hybrid creation. What's the game plan? How are we bringing God into this universe? The game plan is the 613 commandments, the mitzvahs that God gave us. Now, if you want to be cynical, and maybe this is actually, if mitzvahs aren't explained well, you could think about it this way. What are mitzvahs? What are mitzvahs? I don't know. God decided to make a religion out of the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, what's a religion? Well, religion has to have stuff to do, no? What's a religion? There's no rituals. That's all. Figure some stuff out to do, right? That's one way to look at mitzvahs. I don't know why you're doing them. I don't know. It's rituals. Or tradition, right? By the way, that's a terrible word, tradition. It's treif. Because tradition implies that this is meaningless. The only reason why I'm doing it is because my great-great-grandmother once upon a time did it. That's why I do it. That's basically that is what tradition says. Not what it says. That's what the word implies. Oh, tradition. Why am I doing it? Tradition. Because I don't care about it. I would never do it. I wouldn't want to do it, but tradition, I'll do it. So what's Judaism? A bunch of busy work? Here's a story. It's a very deep story. A guy sitting in a park bench in Prospect Park, or in Central Park, Central Manhattan, and he sees a city truck. City workers are pulling up. City of New York City. Two guys get out. They both have shovels. They're here to work on behalf of the city in the park. And this is what he's watching. He's relaxing, having a good time in the park. Guy number one comes with his shovel, digs a little hole, digs out a little hole. As soon as he's done, guy number two comes, takes all the dirt that this guy just shoveled, puts it right back in, pats it down. They move on. 10 more feet, same thing. One guy digs out, next guy puts it right back in. And they're walking around like this, having a wonderful time, using the public tax dollar, doing this insanity. And this guy's just sitting there, just like, it's just driving him mad. What is this madness, utter madness that these two guys are doing? He just can't help himself, but walks with them and says, please excuse me, but I can't believe what I'm watching over here. You guys are walking around doing nothing. Can you please explain to me? Pray, do tell. What in the world are you guys doing? So he said, no, we'll explain to you. We're really a 3-guy team. Guy number 1's me. I dig a little hole. Guy number 2, he has these little tree saplings, and he puts it into the hole. And guy number 3, it's his job to put the dirt back in and pan it around the new tree. But guy number 2 called in sick today. But we're doing our thing, you know. What do you want? Now, why is this such a deep story? It's a Arabic story about life. Right? How do you see life? What's about? In Judaism, people say, mitzvah, putting on tefillin. Whatever, this stuff, you know, making a hole, digging it in. It doesn't matter anyway. I'm not doing anything meaningful over here. I light Shabbos candles. What am I doing? A tradition. You light candles Friday night dinner. Or no, we're trying to do something here. So what actually is the point of this over here? See, city workers, right? It's a very deep story about how government works, right? Bureaucracy. You forgot what you're doing. No, we do this. This is right. Got to file for this permit and this regulation. What regulation? Who needs this regulation over here? No, this is the regulation, right? No, everybody forgot what the point of things are. We can't have that attitude about Judaism. Mitzvahs, and this is already, maybe we have to do another class about this. The whole concept of a mitzvah is, these are very specific, designed tools to create this fusion, this merger, to bring divine energy, the godly presence, and directly connect it to something of this universe. Let's read text number 5, Lisa. Text 5, page 78, continuing from the Tanya.
Mitzvah effects. When do we do a mitzvah? When we do a mitzvah, in my glasses, an act that God commanded, we draw His infinite light down to this physical world, into the actual tangible objects we use to fulfill mitzvah. For example, the parchment used to make tefillin, a mezuzah, or a Torah scroll. Keep going?
No, that's it, for now. Mitzvahs are designed that every single mitzvah touches another physical object. There's virtually no mitzvah in the Torah that you do that doesn't touch physical stuff. Even right now, you're studying Torah. So how do you study Torah? Number 1's a book. So what was this book made out of? First of all, paper, which probably comes from trees. And they probably had to use what? Some type of tractors to cut down those trees. And they needed gasoline to power those tractors. And there's probably glue binding the book and what? Every mitzvah is designed to basically touch upon all the world's resources. And what we're doing is we're taking regular, static stuff, substance of our universe, of the ungodly universe, and directly bringing it into a godly act. Every single mitzvah is not just a thing we do, it's bringing divine energy into our world. And the whole concept of every single mitzvah is that we're taking the resources of our universe, connecting them as a physical object to this divine energy, and slowly but surely taking every single substance of our world and making it godly. When we hit a critical mass, a critical point, that's when the world officially shifts into being a world which is ungodly to being a godly world. And that shift is what we call the coming of Mashiach. Okay. There's more to talk about the general concept of how mitzvahs do this. And in the book of Tanya, there's a tremendous length and depth about this. But for now, dear friends, we only have 23 minutes left of today's class. So, I want to bring this practical in a few points. Number 1, what does this big idea tell us? Big idea. First of all, we learned today that there's a very big purpose, and that purpose is not me. It's not my ego, it's not my life. There's a bigger purpose that actually unites all of us, it unites all of humanity, and it unites everything in this world. We're all part of that purpose. We learned a little bit about what that purpose is. What I want to share with you is like this. Let's go back to the idea of the details in our life. And in general, we look at our world. The world looks very, very fragmented. The world looks very fragmented. But what Judaism says, let's bring it home, let's bring it practical. What Judaism says is this big idea, that there's a purpose that actually compelled all of creation, it tells you that there's nothing that's outside of the purview of this purpose. There's nothing that just is and doesn't have a purpose. So you look naturally at a world, you can look naturally at our own lives and say, my life is all over the place. Why do I do things? I don't even know why I do it. Why do I bring my car to the oil change? I don't know. This is how the world works. So I gave you before the example of a school and a hospital. Let's go like this. Imagine if they take a school, they say, you know what? We're building a new school. We're selling the building. And they go and say, you know, we got a big building over here. Let's turn this building into a hospital. Is that going to be like a smooth transition, turning a school into a hospital? Is that going to work? Probably not, right? Which means a bunch of stuff are not going to Tugesund. A bunch of things are just not going to add up, right? What's all this big space over here? Well, it used to be a football field. Now we don't know what to do with it. What are all these lockers here? What does that do in the hospital? Well, I don't know, whatever. Leftover space from before. So when something is not created with design, with intent, with purpose, then okay, you can have a lot of random stuff that just kind of are sore thumbs, right? Stuff that just don't fit anywhere. A good architect is not just somebody who knows how to make a nice looking building, nice facade. A good architect is somebody who knows how to combine form and function. Let's make a building. If I would hire an architect to build a synagogue, build a shul, a good architect wouldn't just say, okay, let's make a building. You need a big room? Big room. Hallway. No, he would actually go and visit a shul. What does it look like in a shul? What's the function of a shul? How do people navigate a shul? Really get down to what are the needs over here? Okay, where do we need to put the bathroom? Where does the sink need to go? Where do we need doors? Where's a big door, a small door? I want to understand what's the lighting about. That's a good architect. That you could see that this is designed with purpose. Everything comes together. You look at certain modern cities. They're modern cities and they're originally built to be, a metropolitan city. This is going to be a big city. And you see, it's a nice city. It's designed with intent. It has an internal logic. The roads run well. Everything works together. In some cities, they became big cities backwards, right? Just slowly started to just haphazardly throwing on big roads. You have like a big highway that ends up in a parking lot. Just nothing works well. Why? Because you're backing up into a city. You didn't build this with design. As much as this is a big existential, philosophical, theological concept, cosmological, very fancy words over here, concept of why did God create the world, it also tells something very, very beautiful and very, 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 very beautiful, very basic, very personal, which is if God designed this world with a purpose, with a certain intent, that tells me that there's nothing in this world that is extra. There's nothing in this world that's really mundane. There's nothing in my life that's mundane. How do our sages tell us this? I want to read with you 2 quotes from our sages. Let's start with quote number 1. Carrie, text number 6, page 80 from the Talmud.
Everything was created only to serve me, and I was created only to serve my Creator.
Ooh, heavy statement over here. Another big heavy statement. Says who? Says our sages.
No.
Which means like this.
That's not what I was talking to myself.
All right, no problem. Which means like this. I could look at life in one. Okay, I'm here to serve God, but there's also all these other stuff going on over here. Whatever, I got to take a shower. God, I don't have time for you right now. I got to go take a shower. Why? I need to go take a shower. I have a car, got a flat, got to go change my tires. God, okay, I don't have time for you right now. Got to go change my tires. I got to brush my teeth. That's not my purpose over here, but I got to brush my teeth. I got to go this. What? No. Life is pulled in all different directions. Or you could say, no, 1 second. Everything about my life, even the things I don't enjoy about life, even the unmeaningful stuff about life, God created life and my life to look this way for a purpose. Which means a Jew's attitude, which maybe could sound narcissistic at first, but actually is very, very deep, is that my entire environment was created to facilitate me, but not me to be able to then go and say, have a good, nice, big ego. God created everything here for me to be able to do my role in God's creation. It's a whole different attitude. There's nothing in my life that's outside of the purview of my role as an ambassador of God for the mission that He needs me to do. Nothing. So that is a Jewish attitude. There was an individual young man, I heard this from his family, and all of a sudden he had a medical challenge. He had to go to the hospital. He was in the hospital for a few weeks, and he was a relatively young man, and all his children were freaking out. This was in the times of the Rebbe, and they wrote to the Rebbe. They were asking the Rebbe for a blessing for their father. We're stuck in the hospital, and the Rebbe writes back, as soon as your father completes the mission that he needs to do in the hospital, that is exactly when he's going to come back home. Now, the Rebbe didn't tell him what his mission there is, but there is a mission. There's a mission that necessitates that you need to be not in the comfort of your home, but in this specific place right now. I don't know who you're going to meet, what you got to do, who you have to affect. We don't. That's why you're there. You're not there because you're sick. You're sick because of your mission. Meaning, this is how things work. Your environment, all your needs, everything about your life is there for you to be able to do what you need to do. Everything. It's a whole different attitude. And that's, it's also, so we have to train our consciousness. Why am I doing this right now? The Talmud tells us a beautiful, beautiful little story, a little episode. It takes back 1,500 years ago. Ancient Babylonia, which used to be the greatest Jewish city. There was a great rabbi, teacher in the academies of Babylonia. His name was Rabbah. Rabbah means the great rabbi, Rabbah. And he has hundreds and hundreds of scholars and students in his yeshiva. And in the morning, somebody comes over to him with a challenging question. He thinks it through, and he gives an answer. Okay. After lunch break, he comes back to the study hall. After lunch, goes back to this student or whoever it was, and says, "You know what? I told you something this morning, and actually now I realize that I was mistaken. My mind was a little bit foggy. I wasn't thinking clearly. And now I realize, no, now I have a clear answer for you, and I want to tell you the correct thing." And Rav explained what happened. He says, "This morning I didn't eat yet." This is what he says, quote, "marbled meat and spiced wine. But now I just did for lunch. And marbled beef and spiced wine makes my mind clear." So I was able to rethink the issue you brought up today with a whole new clarity. And the Talmud tells us like this. From here we learn that, right, these things which are usually substances that we use for hedonistic purposes or to feed our ego could be used for very holy purposes. So there's two ways to eat a piece of steak. There's two ways to drink a cup of wine. One is, I love meat, I love wine, I'm going to stoke my ego, and I want to feel good about myself, so I'm going to eat a piece of steak. Or you could say, God needs me to be on. I have an important mission to be on earth. What do I need for me to do my mission? If it's steak, it's steak. But I'm not eating steak for it just because I'm a gluttonous guy. I'm eating it because this is what I need for my purpose. There's an idea in Judaism that an expansive house expands the mind. When you live in a small house, it even affects the way you could think. A bigger house allows your mind to think better. So there's an idea that if it will help you to study Torah to have a bigger house. It's like a certain mindfulness. Why am I engaging in this? Everything am I going to be a better Jew today if I brush my teeth in the morning? 100%. You got to brush your teeth. Not as a utilitarian, meaningless act. No, this is holy. This is sacred. This is my mission. God needs me to be on today. This is the way I'm going to be on today. Now, this makes all of life very, very holy, very meaningful, very sacred. There's nothing that's not sacred. Yes, certain things. I'm learning Torah. I'm praying. Okay, that's very holy. What about other things? Everything is holy. Everything is meaningful. There's no moment where we're just like, I'm just having a bad day, just going through life. Any life experience and every single detail of life is part of this. Nothing is not sacred. Nothing is not meaningful. And it's up to us to live life that way. One more quote, Carrie. Next quote from the Talmud as well. Text 7.
Double duty, huh?
Double duty.
Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Ra, everything that God created in this world, He created for a purpose. Nothing was made without a purpose.
There's nothing in our lives that doesn't have a purpose. If my life is designed for a purpose, then everything that my life was designed around is for that purpose as well. This is the Jewish attitude. Now, it doesn't mean that the whole world's created for me, and that's how the baby thinks, right? The whole world's here for me. Everything is me. My little mayor, he's a very, very cute boy. You know what his favorite word is? Mine. Very profound. Mine. He sees my cell phone. Mine. Really? Mine? Yeah, mine. Automatically, default. Mine. Let's discuss, negotiate. No reasoning. Mine. All right? That's human nature. So we're not saying everything is mine. No, everything is for me to do my part. Whole different attitude. Nothing is not meaningful. What does that tell us? That leaves us with two little messages that I want to conclude today's class with. Number one is, this is something which actually modern psychology tells us is something which is very, very practical for a person to feeling a certain inner sense of serenity, of peace, of wholesomeness, that their whole life matters. That I'm not being pulled in millions of directions. I'm living a singular life. I'm on a mission. My family is part of that mission. My obligation is part of that mission. My job is part of that mission. If God made the world that I need money to be able to live, pay my bills, and that means I need to go get a job, that means my job is part of my mission. Sleep is the world's greatest waste of time. A third of our life spent sleeping. Or we could say, God made me, designed me that I need to sleep. What does that tell me? Sleep is actually a very beautiful, purposeful thing to do. Not right now, by the way, but other than now. And evening in bed. Okay. No, some would say that's actually the job of a rabbi. Rabbi's job is to help people sleep. You know the joke? There's once they say the story that a rabbi and a New York City taxi driver show up to the gates of heaven at the same time. No, they both pass on. So they're right there. So whoever's the secretary up there, the secretary angel takes a look at the files. First, the taxi driver looks at his file and says, "This is a wonderful, wonderful resume over here. Straight to heaven. Not even a question. Straight. Take your bag, straight to heaven. Have a wonderful time." Then it's the rabbi. Opens up the rabbi's file. He starts looking. And Yiddish say, ecking and becking, twisting his nose. Not sure. I don't know. They gotta get the manager here. I don't know. This is very confusing. The rabbi is so offended. He says, "That foul-mouthed taxi driver, lowlife, he is sent straight to heaven. I'm a rabbi. Some respect. You're not sure about?" The angel says, "Listen, I open up his report. All I know is that anybody who got into his taxi started praying. Anybody who started listening to you went straight to sleep." So if God designed us to sleep at night in bed, then what? What does that mean? That means it's part of my meaning. There's got to be. There's something purposeful. So that makes us a lot more curious. I'm doing something very meaningful. How do I infuse meaning and purpose and mindfulness even in the act of going to sleep? What does that mean? But what that means is that there's a certain inner serenity and a calmness that Judaism wants us to have. That I'm focused, I'm grounded, I'm present in life. I'm not easily so frazzled by things. Let's read text 11, a beautiful, beautiful text from the Rebbe's teachings when the Rebbe was speaking about this theme. And Doug read it to you. Beautiful text for you. Text 11, page 83.
Calling purpose is basic human nature that when a person doesn't feel the purpose and goal of their life, that I was created only to serve my Creator, they cannot experience real inner calm or peace of mind. That's because the constant changes of time and place, along with the endless details and sub-details of life, create ongoing tension and instability that fragment the person.
But, keep on going.
But, when a person becomes aware of the goal, purpose, and meaning, being high all those details, it brings a deep sense of calm. That calm transcends the movement and fluctuation of life's particulars, and it leads a person toward wholeness. It's obvious that a person functions with greater integrity and balance when they have such peace, both peace of mind and peace of body.
Look at that. If we could somehow get in tune to this purpose, it's a whole different peace of mind, peace of body. It's a bigger idea. We don't have so much time to talk about it, but we'll talk about it a little bit. This is really what the day of Shabbos is all about. Shabbos is not just a day to rest and do what? Do nothing. Shabbos is a day that carries an energy. It's actually in the Torah. It says in the Torah that God finished creating the world on the sixth day. And then the Torah says, and now the seventh day. And then the Torah says again, and on the seventh day, God finished creating the heavens and the earth. And then he rested. So one second. It's like, if you just look in the Torah, if you look critically at the verses there, it introduces the seventh day, and then says again, God finished the world. If the world was finished on the sixth day, what was God doing on the seventh day that finished it more? Let's look at text 12b. Anna, text 12b, page 85. I know. You can talk to my lawyer after class today.
Yeah.
What was
Refund,
the
yes.
word, walking, rest? The Shabbat came and it came rest. The work was completed and finished.
Oh, God did create something. Something did happen. There is an energy to the seventh day of creation, which is rest. What does rest mean? What does peace mean? Do you ever connect it with this? The purpose of creation was the gift of Shabbos. A unifying force that gives an inner anchor, a serenity. That's really what Shabbos is all about. And that's why there's a mitzvah for us to rest on Shabbos. All right, I said we'll do another text. You want to do another text?
Yeah.
Give us another text. Text 13, page 86. Karen, would you like to read?
Sure.
Text
The
13.
The rest of purpose. Shabbat brought rest into the world. The Shabbat came, and with it came rest, because with the completion of creation during the 6 days, the heavens and the earth and all they contain were completed. On the seventh day, God completed the work he had done and rested from all his labor. Something shifted. At that point, it became apparent throughout the world, in every detail and across all variations of time and space, that everything was created by the one God, and that a single unified purpose runs through all of creation. That purpose is beyond the changes of time and place, and it's what brings true peace and tranquility to the entire world.
There's a certain energy, which is called the gift of Shabbos. It's an energy that God has given to the world on this day, and it's the reason why God wants us to be grounded. All right, airport grounding. We're shutting it down. All right, a shutdown for the seventh day. Why rest? Why not be productive? It's actually interesting. In the olden days, one of the reasons for anti-Semitism was that Jews are lazy. It's one of the anti-Semitic stereotypes. Why do they say Jews are lazy? Because we had Shabbos. Because once a week we don't work. Who ever heard about that? In Roman society, every day of the week you work. In Egyptian society, every day you work. Jews take vacation once a week. Unbelievable. Who ever heard of such a thing before? So it's something which we introduced to the world, the idea of a weekend. It's a day to actually slow down, calm down, stop being so busy, and realize there's something greater to life. Anchor all of, it creates an anchor, it's an attitude, a certain harmony that helps us in the coming week ahead. This is a godly world. That's what we affirm in the Kiddush. God created the world. I'm here for that purpose. And the whole week we work, but not because we're busy, chasing after our tail, being pulled in all different directions. It's a godly work. And we tap into, God gives us the blessing on Shabbos. We can pull some of that light, some of that peace, some of that serenity into our lives. The Shabbos candles brings a certain transcendent light. What's that light? It's the light of peace. It's the light of a world that's not fragmented. There's a unity. There's an inner purpose. But dear friends, one final point is what this teaches us, is that every single detail of our personality, however God made us, our quirks, our highs, our lows, our weaknesses, our strengths, everything, we are designed for a very specific purpose, and we have to lean into that. Living a life with purpose means that we realize that everything, the way God made us, is for our purpose here on earth. Let's read this next text from our sages. Text 14, page 88. David, give us a read.
Honor with your skills. The first day is honor God with your possessions, with the skills He graced you with. If you have a beautiful voice, lead the congregation in prayer.
That's what our sages say. The verse says, honor God with your possessions, but our sages say, well, how God created, the talents God created you with, that's also part of your possession. So, for example, you have a good voice, figure out how to use that for the divine purpose. All right, next text. Let's bring it home. From the Rebbe, text 15. Yes, Janet. Yes, text 15, page 89.
Okay, purposeful talents. This is a lesson for every Jew. We must be careful to ensure that every ability God has given us, even the smallest detail, is never wasted, God forbid. Instead, each one should be used to its fullest extent for the purpose and mission for which God created us. I was created only to serve my Creator.
So if you have a talent, if you have a gift, whatever it is, if you have a good head, study Torah. If you have warmth and you have good friendship, use it to love other Jews. Use it to help other people, support other people. You have a good voice. Figure out how to use everything is a talent that not only you have a talent, how can I make money out of it? I have a talent, God gave me a gift. It's like that, I could do my purpose. That is the idea of today's class. There's a big purpose that's beyond me, and there's not a single detail of my life, there's not a single circumstance, and there's not a single personality trait about who I am that is not defined by that purpose. And all that's left for us is to lean into it, believe in it, and say, I'm here for a purpose, let me live life that way. And dear friends, with that, we are officially out of time. 8:30.
8:30.
I don't know. My lawyer's not going to take email now.
I keep late, so I owe you.
8:30. And that's absolutely true. You were here for another 20 minutes. Dear friends, have a wonderful evening. Looking forward to seeing you all soon.